Tonight, a powerful nor'easter slamming the East Coast with dangerous flooding along the coastline and vicious winds causing 1.4 million power outages from Maine to North Carolina.
We're going to begin tonight with this bad storm battering much of the East Coast.
We have that fierce and deadly storm that's moving through the Northeast.
Yeah, it really is, and moving fast.
Along Massachusetts coastline,
This whole street will be totally flooded.
look at this.
Probably within the next 45 minutes.
Wind gusts above 70 miles an hour. Streets simply gone beneath the water. And the waves.
The ground shakes. You can hear it. You can see it.
Whoa.
Now,
Look at
that's what
that.
we
That
gotta
went
avoid.
up over the roof.
That hit the house, so we got to step back.
We've more than doubled our staff.
With the storm's first high tide, Duxbury Fire was at the ready, checking on residents who stayed behind.
There actually is a road underneath here.
Using this massive high water vehicle to get to areas now cut off by water. Tens of millions up and down the coast are still in the thick of it. In Boston, the harbor spilling into the streets.
Millions of people across the Northeast are waking up without power this morning. Take a look at this video out of Wenham, Massachusetts. That is a downed electrical wire, likely set this gas main on fire there. Some pretty big flames.
And this is Duxbury, Massachusetts, where an entire neighborhood is underwater. You can see it's almost at the top of that white picket fence at the left top of your screen there.
And with this storm has come some dangerous rescues. This is a mother and child picked up by firefighters after their house was flooded.
The Nor'easter are also creating massive travel delays as well. This is a picture of the large, frustrated crowds at New York's Penn Station.
In Pennsylvania and upstate New York, heavy snow making driving treacherous.
Rain, snow, slush, it's just, my windshield wipers almost can't keep up with this stuff.
Around New York City, wind gusts over 60 miles an hour, toppling trucks on bridges. Downing trees in Philadelphia, hitting a bus on a highway. While those whipping winds in D.C., rocking scaffolding and downing trees. And turning deadly in Virginia, a 6-year-old boy killed in his bed when a tree came through the roof.
Those waves that were bigger than the houses they were washing over, that had to be crazy.
It was just unbelievable, Sam. You and I have covered a lot of these hurricanes, and we've seen things like that. This was just incredible. And you know, Sam, here in Boston, we are still feeling some of those wind gusts that you're talking about. You know, here at the Boston Harbor, they saw the 3rd highest water level on record. We're talking about a storm surge of nearly 4 feet, and the flooding threat is not over just yet. Overnight, the monster nor'easter blasting homes with wind and waves reaching as high as 2nd-story homes. In Quincy, Massachusetts, children rescued by the National Guard after their neighborhood flooded. Rescues taking place in the buckets of tractors, with the water washing out roads. This couple and their dog brought to safety on a boat. This man stranded in his vehicle trying to get out.
Look at this surge.
The wind gusts reaching up to 93 miles per hour. Tough for us to even stand it. And this incredible wind that you're seeing right now, this is actually coming off the ocean. Power outages across the Northeast, with more than 2 million customers without electricity this morning. In Pennsylvania, the downed power lines causing fires, and the storm turning deadly with at least 7 deaths, all from falling trees, highlighting the unexpected danger of some of nature's heaviest debris.
Stay out of it if you can, avoid being outside. A lot of these tree limbs are coming down and people aren't prepared for them.
On the road in James City County, Virginia, a truck driver could not avoid a falling oak tree. The passenger was killed.
At least 4 people in 3 states have been killed by falling trees, including 2 boys, 6 and 11 years old. More than 50 million people from the mid-Atlantic to New England are in the storm zone. Coastal communities are getting swamped by hours of heavy rain and a surge of seawater. Exceptionally high tides tonight could bring more flooding. Inland areas in higher elevations are getting more than a foot of heavy snow. That's the kind that snaps tree limbs and power lines. The most widespread threat is wind. Gusts have topped 80 miles an hour, hurricane force. More than 2 million homes and businesses have lost power so far. Thousands of flights have been canceled. Chris Van Cleve is north of Boston in Winthrop, Massachusetts, and he begins our coverage tonight.
Jeff, the Massachusetts coast is just getting hammered. Wind gusts up to 88 miles an hour. And now first responders are really worried all this wind is going to churn up the waves at high tide and send it slamming into these houses, possibly through these houses.
By midday, the Atlantic Ocean was easily jumping over Winthrop's seawall.
14 feet of floodwaters rushed through beachfront homes, turned neighborhoods into lakes and cars into moored boats. Emergency crews had to use construction vehicles to rescue the stranded. We found the Cresses looking to escape the 4 feet of rising water in their basement. They just finished fixing the house after it was flooded during January's record bomb cyclone storm. Why did you ask to get taken out of here now?
Because the tide's going to be higher tonight.
Okay.
They loaded into the back of this National Guard monster truck along with their 17-year-old cat, Sweetheart. And Boston didn't fare any better. Waterfront condos quickly became water-filled along the harbor. This is Boston's Long Wharf. Normally it is tourist central. Right now it is part of the harbor as the tide is pushing all of this water up into a place where normally people would be gathering. This was the third highest tide on record here in Boston, more than 14.5 feet. Tonight is expected to be even higher. The at times hurricane-force winds did damage too. Up and down the northeast coast, trees crushed the sides of houses. Power poles were bent sideways, and millions of customers lost power.
Attention squad 1, wire down.
We surveyed the damage with Winthrop, Massachusetts Fire Chief Paul Flanagan. Should people leave instead of stay? Should people just go?
We're recommending that they go. We're recommending that they go. A lot of them have ridden out many a storm down here, but tonight's going to be a true test. It all came together.
It all came together. It's a perfect storm situation.
Perfect storm, and it's the second one we've had in a month.
It is punishing to be out in this, but the worst is really yet to come. High tide set for a little bit before midnight, and that's where the real concern comes in, Jeff.
And Chris, why is the flooding expected to be so bad tonight?
Well, the high tide is such a concern because it's sort of three factors. You have the full moon, the high tide, and hours of these strong winds just whipping up the water. That's going to send it into these homes with a whole lot of force, and anyone out here could be risking their lives.
Hurricane-force winds, heavy rain, and record snow in some areas. At least 6 deaths are being blamed on the storm.
Rescues took place overnight along the Massachusetts coastline as high tide sent seawater rushing into streets. Even where it wasn't raining or snowing, the high winds were dangerous. Take a look at these passenger jets struggling to land at an airport outside Raleigh, North Carolina. The camera caught one pilot aborting a landing at Reagan National Airport near Washington, D.C.
And situations like that are causing travel to crawl nationwide. Since Friday morning, more than 3,900 flights have been canceled. Chris Van Cleve is in Boston this morning, where rising tides reach near record levels. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. We got about another 500 flights or so canceled today, but Amtrak is back running. You can see it is low tide out here. That's good news for the folks where we are. The winds still intense but dying down. This was a powerful storm. I should be walking upstairs here, but it blew enough sand that I can pretty much just step right up to the seawall. People were very worried when they would get back to these houses here in Winthrop that they would find the ocean had gone through it. Neighbors say the waves were hitting the houses, but it looks like they weathered this storm. The dangerous high tide just before midnight slammed the coast at nearly 14 feet in parts of Massachusetts. Coupled with almost 3 feet of storm surge, it sent ferocious water over seawalls and into neighborhoods. Earlier Friday, Quincy first responders rescued more than 50 stranded residents using boats and front loaders.
It's kind of scary because we were the ones standing up on it and having to hold on.
We have major flooding in Weymouth.
Neighborhoods all along the coast saw serious flooding.
My house is completely underwater. I had everything set up, and it ended up coming in the back instead of the front like it did on January 4th. And I had nothing else I could do. January's bomb cyclone damaged the Cresses Winthrop home. On Friday, we found them waiting for a National Guard truck to escape more flooding and the 4 feet of water rising in their basement. You guys have flooded once before this winter.
Yes.
It's happening all over again.
6 weeks ago. We just finished everything. New furnace, new washer and dryer. We had to replace our pipes because they froze last time.
The nor'easter also blanketed parts of the Northeast in snow. Syracuse, New York broke a record with more than 14 inches, making Friday the snowiest day of the winter. High winds toppled power lines, knocking out electricity to more than 2.5 million people. Trees crashed into homes,
In Chester, Virginia, the storm turned tragic.
You can see that it went through the trailer right there.
A falling tree killed a 6-year-old boy. And in Maryland, a 100-year-old woman had to be rescued after 50-mile-an-hour winds brought this tree down.
I'm just trying to get home. As you can hear, I have a cold.
The weather forced Amtrak to cancel trains between Washington, D.C. and Boston. That left commuters like Tissa Joyner-Nance frustrated.
I expected it to be, inclement, but not where it would stop the trains from running. It's not like we're not in the Northeast and this doesn't happen every year.
More than 3,000 flights were canceled Friday, stranding people like Betsy Sulcer. She was trying to get from Boston to her bachelorette party in Nashville.
You seem in pretty good spirits for maybe missing your bachelorette.
Yeah, I mean, with a bunch of good girls, so we'll have fun either way.
She took that better than I would have. Now, a lot of people here in Winthrop spent the night pumping water out of their basements. There was a lot of storm surge, and that brought a lot of water in. So you walk around the streets here, you see a lot of these hoses that have been pumping water out into the street, and there, no exaggerating, is sand everywhere.
The wind problems, the flooding problems, that's the travel delays, the power outages, that all continues today. Here's a list of the worst so far. If you have anything worse than this, just send it to me on Twitter and we'll put it up there. But Barnstable, Massachusetts, peak wind gust, 93 miles an hour. What you will hear today is people tell you that's a Category 1 wind gust. When they say that to you, you say this to them. Category 2 is 96. That's how close it was to a Cat 2 hurricane. Crazy.
From everything the meteorologists are telling us, this water is not going to be able to escape, so it's only going to get worse.